All right, folks, we're going to get started in just a minute here. Thank you for joining our webinar on Cloud SIEM. So just one more minute while we let some more folks into the room here. All right, with it, let's get started, folks. So welcome and hello. I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing here for Security at Sumo Logic, and welcome to our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM live webinar. We're going to be talking about cloud scale analytics and automation that you can use for SecOps professionals in your actual SecOps or SOC workflows. Quick housekeeping, this live webinar is being recorded, so we'll make sure it gets into your hands later on, as well as being posted out on YouTube. I'll take some time at the end for any questions that you may have. While I'm speaking, feel free to click the Q&A button in your webinar window and jot down your question. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Now, we've allotted 30 minutes, and I want to ensure that we can get you folks back on to your next meeting on time. So let me begin with a quick overview of who we are. We are Sumo Logic. We've built a continuous intelligence platform for observability and security use cases, which is currently analyzing more than 1.7 exabytes of data every single day by more than 175,000 users across the globe. Now, using our continuous intelligence platform, Sumo Logic offers this broad range of security solutions, which goes from audit and compliance on the left here, all the way to the right, which is our cloud source solution. But today, I'm zeroing in on and focusing on our Cloud SIEM solution, which includes our Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on module, as well as our core platform, the Continuous Intelligence Platform here at Sumo Logic. Now, check out Sumo Logic's website webinar page if you would like to register for one of our other live demos that cover these other solutions in greater detail. Now, one of the things I wanted to do is I'm looking at the audience list here, and it looks like a mixed bag of different folks across the globe here for this particular time. And so I want to just make sure that we take this opportunity to make sure everyone's on the same page and we're all feeling the same challenges with SIEMs in general, and also in our SOCs, in our security operations. So some of these common challenges come down to the blind spots, manual workflows, and also alert fatigue. Now, if we think about the one on the left here, digital transformation in the recent growth in organizations migrating to the cloud, it's created new challenges with security blind spots and legacy security tools and SIEMs. Let's be honest, they weren't built for the cloud. And this has resulted in more threat visibility gaps than ever before. And if we speak of existing security tools and legacy tools, many SOC teams are tired of the slow, inefficient, manual workflows that they've been having to endure. And with the recent shifts in this threat landscape and the new attack surfaces due to cloud adoption, security analysts, gosh, we need all the help we can get, right, for speeding up investigation and response times. Now, another top challenge on the right here is that security teams are spending too much time and resources on chasing down low priority security alerts and false positives. And all of the increasing alerts and noise has really continued to just burn out team members. We've seen it firsthand with alert fatigue. And this has made it clear to CISOs and SOC directors that this is no longer a human scale problem because they simply can't hire their way out of this problem. So our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM solution offers easy to use cloud native collection and threat detection for security professionals like yourselves. So first, we're helping your SOC teams eliminate the security blind spots by correlating threats across all of your on-prem, public cloud, multi-cloud, and hybrid cloud environments. Just a second here. Uh, Pardon me. We're also able to help security teams speed up threat investigations and combat lost time that you've spent due to manual workflows with your legacy SecOps tools. And finally, we help our customers cut through the noise by automatically triaging and prioritizing the security threats that matter most to your SOC and to your organization. Now, you might be wondering, how do we do this, especially cutting through this noise benefit I'm alluding to? Well, let's drill down into alert fatigue challenge and let's put some numbers to it while I explain what makes our Cloud SIEM truly unique. Right here, this is an example, a real world example of a global manufacturer who sent more than 10 billion logs and event data to Sumo Logic over a 45-day POV eval period. And our Cloud SIEM automatically ingested and parsed and normalized into records. And in total, it was really 9.8 million signals that we fired. And that's something that other vendors might refer to as like their noble events or their alerts. Now, most traditional SIEMs use correlation rules to get to this point, while other solutions try to increase alert fidelity further, requiring substantial rule stacking and tuning, machine learning, risk scoring. But in general, let's be honest, it ends up stopping right here, because they do not capture the unknown threat patterns. And ultimately, security teams, you folks, you're on the hook then to filter the remaining alerts and throw a bunch of level 1 security analysts at the problem for alert triage. But even that can still result in errors and other issues, as well as just taking too much precious time. So Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM solution uniquely provides real automation of security analyst workflows. So our Insight Engine, think of it, it's an adaptive signal clustering algorithm. It's a big fancy way of saying that every time a rule fires, it creates a signal with a unique signature, a reference to an entity, and a severity score. So this Insight Engine also provides a powerful view back in time, evaluating all signals associated with an entity for up to the last 30 days. So we're not just talking about what happened 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago. We're able to string together these events attributed to that same single entity in what we refer to as an insight. And this structured set of information is really optimized to accelerate alert triage. And so this sophisticated layer of analysis that we're doing allows our Cloud SIEM to detect advanced threats and low and slow attacks, as well as higher speed direct threats coming right at you in your SOC. And on top of this, as I mentioned, we've got our exabyte cloud scale. It dramatically improves the signal to noise ratio. In fact, this company here, they witnessed a signal to insight ratio of about 56,000 to 1, leading to then 175 of these insights, of which they validated 65 incidents over the course of this 45-day proof of value. Now, this customer also struggled with a 98% false positive rate, despite multiple tools and services that they were using, from endpoint data and working with the previous MSSP vendor. But with our Cloud SIEM, we enabled them to centralize their data and consolidate these tools while drastically reducing their false positive rate down to 9%. That's a 90.2% reduction in the amount of false positive that they were dealing with. So as you can see, Sumo Logic automatically detects and is correlating this real-time threats and incidents across on-prem, cloud, and hybrid data sources. But I think it'd be so much better if I just show you, right? So let me flip over to the live demo. I've got a system that is up and running right now. Just flipping over to another Chrome browser tab. Everything is threaded through, and it's automatically updating too. So as the screen, there it goes. As the screen changes, I'm not hitting the space bar, refresh button. Don't have to be typing anything in. I'm just getting this push update, which is important. So when we look at the solution, you're greeted first with our user interface, and this is purpose-built for security analysts. And it might look a little different than our search interface, which is really built for anybody who needs to dig into data forensically and perform queries or look at our dashboards to monitor and troubleshoot data, whether it's for observability use cases for DevOps folks or security use cases for SecOps folks, or this wonderful blending of teams that's coming together under DevSecOps, where really everyone's on the same page because it's all the same data in the same secure data lake. But with this UI, you're greeted with a lot of information, I realize, so I'm just going to walk you through it. I'm going to get to that big blob in the center in just a second, our Insight Radar. But let me start in the upper left-hand corner. I'm looking at the fact of its status. It's online. This is a SaaS, true SaaS service, cloud native, as I mentioned before, multi-tenant architecture, where every customer is getting the same pushed updates. We are pushing rule updates to our rule content, some that we're adding and improving, some that we're getting rid of dead wood. And this is every Tuesday and Thursday. No worries though, like if you make any customized rules, we have something called rule tuning expressions, where you're actually not having to copy the rules that we're curating for you and managing for you. You don't have to copy it and then edit the copy. You can actually just express what you're trying to change to our rules. That way, when our rule updates come through, what you've done, all that work that you've put forth will not break your rules. And that's a great, I just want to point that out to folks because I know that that is top of mind for an awful lot of SIEM engineers and SOC analysts as well. So I choose my 24-hour period. I could also choose looking at an 8-hour period or maybe even a 2-day period. And of course, the entire page is updating in real time here. I took in a bunch of structured and unstructured data, and I'm doing this every single time. In the last 2-day period, because that's what I'm looking at now is a 2-day period, I've brought in 18 million records. We parsed and normalized all that on stream ingest. We've got 18 million. Now those records are sitting now in our Cloud SIEM enterprise within Sumo Logic, and that's actually up 6% from the previous 2-day period. Great. Well, we get folks up and running. We talk about that all the time. Customers love the fact that they're able to move quickly. And this isn't, a SIEM project with Sumo Logic is not measured in quarters and months and years. It's measured in days and weeks. So that's because of our out-of-the-box rules content. More than 600 rules that I mentioned before that you can customize and tune to your heart's content. That's what's triggering the signals. And these signals from those 18 million records, our rules content generated about 1 million signals, slightly down, maybe just under a percentage point from the previous 2-day period. And right here, this is, I'll use my mouse to move here. This is right where folks have told us that their solutions are stopping, that they're left with all these so-called notable events or alerts, and they don't know what to do with it. 1 million is an awful lot of data to still try to sift through. So Sumo Logic and our Cloud SIEM enterprise goes further. We're looking at those 1 million signals. We're looking at how we can correlate and cluster them together with our algorithm. And through the different severity scores that are attributed to the rules that fire these signals, we're looking at aggregating this score to get to a certain threshold, which is definable. And that threshold then triggers an insight. And an insight is an opinionated view, our opinionated view for our customers and the SOC teams for what they need to investigate immediately, say 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. And in this particular 2-day period in my environment here, it looks like I've got 18 insights that have fired. And there it looks like it's trending up. That's 12% more insights than we had the 2 days prior. A little bit further down, I can see the metrics of those insights. Clearly, I'm going to say insights a lot, so get used to it. We've got metrics for how long you've been dwelling with those insights, 4 days. What's your response time for getting to those insights? Well, 3 minutes, not bad for the team. Hurrah. Remediation, though, taking about 13 hours for some of these insights. And we also display kind of a progress report for the status. How many are new? 5. How many are in progress? 1. Any in a custom defined field or category within your workflows? None currently. And you've closed out 12 in the last 2-day period. Again, hurrah, that's great. You can also see a visual of above and below the chart of the number of insights that have been created and read or closed. And it looks like we've been closing some, so that's great, with a timestamp going left to right. Now let's get to the center of the screen. This is what your eyes were probably gravitationally drawn to. This is our Insight Radar. So in this radar view, again, it's pushing automatically. It's refreshing here for me. I can see a blue squiggly line. That's a technical term, folks. This line is going around showing the ebb and flow of ingested data as records. That's the blue line. And as I hover over it with my mouse, I can see the different time periods from top dead center, 12 o'clock position, around clockwise. That's a full 2-day view. And again, I can change that view from up here in the left, pulled down between 4 hours, all the way spreading out to 7-day view. Now these bar charts emanating radially and again clockwise around the circle, around the radar, are the number of signals that have fired in that particular block of time. So from 5:40 p.m. to 6:20 p.m. We had 17,826 signals. Now, again, in a production environment for yourselves, you'll be a lot more organic. You'll really start to see some outlying events of when you're ingesting and bringing on new data, like you've just invested in CrowdStrike or VMware Carbon Black. You're bringing that data in. You'll probably see a spike of records and data. You'll probably start to expect to see a lot of alerts or signals firing as well. But it's the triangles in the center, and the color does matter. And the color indicates these insights. These red triangles are new insights. Green are insights that your team has gotten to and closed out already. And white, none here appearing, would be the custom insights, as well as this yellow, orangish color, which are insights that somebody on my team is currently prosecuting. They're currently investigating that particular insight. And on the far right-hand side, I've got a little baseball card style view of the latest insight activity. And you can get a quick glimpse of the insight, the unique naming sequence we use, and an automatically created name, a title, the discovery with credential access and execution. The system automatically put that together. How? Well, every single one of our signals with our rules content has predefined custom tag schema, which is set up for the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So we're actually telling folks, we're telling you all the different tagging for the tactics and the techniques attributed to the various MITRE ATT&CK framework items that are being seen. And we put that into the signals. And then we're able to extract that information and help create a name. So at a glance, the analyst can start to understand and appreciate what this is likely about. Along with the dwell time, it's been culminating over 8 days. And now we fired the insight. It's got a high severity. It's made up of 4 signals. So it's a multi-relationship, one to many. We can also see the entity. In this case, it's an IP address. Sometimes the entity is a MAC address or a host name, or could even be a custom derived concept for an entity. You could actually design it so that an entity is describing, a custom entity type would be describing like the CEO's laptop or particular production server or workload that you're very keen to, because maybe that's the key app that your business makes and is bringing in the lion's share of your revenue. So by tracking all the stuff to that entity, it's much easier. It's that steel thread that ties everything together for you on an incident by incident or an insight by insight basis as you're managing these events. I can also review it. I can see close. I can also see a global confidence score. Fun fact, the actions that customers take, like you, when you're using the product, when you're closing out and prosecuting signals and investigating insights, and ultimately when you close the insight, you're going to close it with a reason code, and they're selectable, and some of them are fixed. But there's also the option to then get more granular and customize that. Again, to make the product fit into what your current workflows already look like or your standard operating procedures involve with the same names, the same taxonomy. So when you close those out, you're informing us and now into this anonymized model, this machine learning model that we've got, crowdsourcing from all Cloud SIEM customers of why these insights were closed. And then the machine learning model is kicking out a predictive score, a confidence score, as to how likely that when you see those signals in this insight again at company A to company B to company C, or customer A to customer B, anywhere across the globe, then we're able to say with a degree of confidence that 95 is the score from 0 to 100, that this particular insight is actionable. So this is combating the concern and the issue with false positives. If I saw a confidence score of 0 or 5, maybe I'll skip it. I'll get to that later, and I'll find out maybe there's some reason that that Sumo Logic is predicting that it's not quite actionable. Probably because we've seen others before you, your colleagues, your peers, state that the signal or the insight is a false positive, or some other redundant score, or maybe it's some sort of issue or event that's firing from an endpoint protection, and it's the same piece of malware, and the machine keeps getting reinfected. So you keep generating more and more insights. So there might be a redundancy happening. Whatever the reason, this helps you focus your time and attention on the higher confidence scores, and you've already focused your time on insights, which you've got 18 versus trying to get through 1 million signals. So this is really, when you hear us talking about getting folks up and running quickly, when you hear us talking about folks that are able to focus their time in the threats that matter most, this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is how we're doing it. But I'd like to show you what a day in the life looks like when you're actually just using the product. Security analysts will come right into our insights page. We've got two views that they can enjoy. We have a tabular view here, table view, and it's going through. You can see the color coding is still there. New insights would have red. So of course we say new in red. We've got this bar in the left, color coding, it's red. And as you scroll through, you can get a sense of the new, the in progress, ones that are closed. Going from left to right, you also get to see the information of the related incidents, global confidence score, what analyst on my team might be working on it. Currently, this one's unassigned. And I mentioned all those tactics and technique tags that we have with MITRE ATT&CK Framework, as well as other custom tag schemas that you can do for yourself. All are pre-populating here. And I can hover over these and drill down into them, learn about them on the mitre.org website as well. And then, of course, the entity and another little heat map showing from left to right the date and time of when a signal fired, and 0 to 10 with the midline being, the mid axis being a severity level of 5. So that's the severity level. So that's when you can start to realize that there's a lot of low and slow, under the radar, figuratively and visually here, reconnaissance and other tactics and techniques that an attacker could be using against your organization or against your data or your apps. We also have this other view too. If some folks prefer a board view, more of a Kanban style approach. You can imagine like your Scrum sessions, moving Post-its across the wall back in the office. Now you've got your new column, your in progress, maybe customize. I mentioned those white triangles are for the insights that are considered custom workflows. You could have a workflow for tier 3 analysts, get their own bucket to work in. That would show up as white. And here you can see there's a white bar underneath this one for the email team who's going to go work on this particular insight. So as I'm scrolling through here, I'm an analyst at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. I'm looking at which one do I want to see. I'm skipping past maybe some of these global confidence scores of 15. I'll get to those later. And then I land on this one here, Insight 19255, persistence with initial access. It's got a nice confidence score, 95. It's got, it's very short duration. It's only been going on for about a day, and it's made up of 5 signals. Well, let's get in there. Let's take a look at it. You're immediately greeted to the Insight Details page. At the top, again, I'm seeing a visual graph from time, left to right, and date. And from 0 to 5 to 10, I'm seeing the severity of the individual signals. And those severity risk scores, those activity scores are adding up to reach a certain threshold. And when that threshold hits, that's why this insight was triggered. I can also see that there's different colors and shapes based on the type of rule that fired the signal. I got blue diamonds. I've got this little teal waypoint looking icon to represent anomalous based rules that fired. Threat intelligence rules would show up as a purple pentagon. And then I also see file analysis showing up as a yellow square. And of course, that helps folks with different visual acuity issues or concerns. I can also see the different entities that are the primary entity for this particular insight. And now with a recent feature, just a couple of weeks ago, we added all the other associated entities that this may also be this other person because we found this data in AD, or we found this in an LDAP lookup, or a domain controller in this case, here DC is the host name, and other usernames that might also be attributed to this entity. And the entity in this case is this IP address. So that shows possibly some of the ephemeral nature of what this IP address might have been this at one point. Now it's something else. It's being attributed to a threat name. I see a phishing threat name, a username, vagrant at windowdomain.local. And as I click on these cards, I'm seeing a details pane over on the right-hand side here, where it's showing exactly what inventory, if any, it came from. I can see the different signals that are fired. In a production environment, this would be a little bit less organized. It would be a little bit more organic, indicating when and how it fired and its severity score. And then all the different signals and insights that this entity has been caught up in or is a part of. Now, again, I'm not digging too deep in the product. I'm on the same single insight page here. I'm just flipping through the signals, flipping through the entities, and then we come to enrichments. And we pride ourselves on the fact that we've taken a lot of manual workflows and the days of an analyst writing down on a scratch pad next to their rig, and they're writing down all the IP address. They're doing whois lookups, and they're tracking MAC addresses in their head. I mean, that tradecraft is amazing, but wouldn't it be faster if we could just take that tradecraft and then automatically enrich where it should be, that particular insight that fired? In this case, pulling in CrowdStrike endpoint data enrichments. So now we've got some device information. We've got logged in user and the SIP information here. NS lookup information for the IP address. We're pulling in reputation data from Cisco Umbrella, pulling in reputation data from Virus Total, all attributed to this entity, all part of this insight. So as you can start to begin to tell here, we've got an awful lot of information now at my disposal as an analyst. Plus, the signals that made up this insight are laid out in order. I could change the event time. I could look at them through when they were created, the severity score, the content type, or its name. But the default view is I'm playing back the event. As I scroll down, I'm seeing that there was a vulnerability reported. So Tenable had a vulnerability issue for this particular host for this IP address. Okay, had a severity score of 0. Looks like Proofpoint was doing its job. It found out and spotted that a user got an email with a phishing link, it looks like. That had a severity score of 4. So now our count is at 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. Now it looks like we've got another piece here, a severity of 3 coming through. That Checkpoint Technologies, looks like their threat emulation file spotted a malicious file was allowed through. Where? To that same entity, that same IP address. So we're stringing together this thought process. It's not an insight yet. We don't have enough bad necessary activity. They all individually could be considered bad, but now taken as a whole, we're getting a story played out here. Then we get to the threat intelligence. We had a match with a file hash. So threat intelligence, again, that's a purple pentagon so that we can see that at a glance as you're going through it. And again, the tactics and techniques are showing up here. I can drill down onto these different signals and get the full picture, all the metadata, more of the tags. I can see the rule that actually triggered and why this rule fired. And I can look at that and maybe make edits to the rule. Device information, details, all the extracted fields are here for me to look at. I can look at full details. Some analysts want to look at a little bit more detail in this particular view. Or maybe you've got your own systems and processes in place. Take a raw log data, get it out as a downloaded file, as a CSV or JSON file, and then bring it into whatever tool that you currently use or trust. But you haven't had to get your eye off the ball. You're staying right here in the Insight Details page with all this rich information. And then when it's time to take to the next step, that this is a legit issue. This is a real event we need to work on. You could have automatically generated an action that would have triggered when this insight was created, or take on-demand actions right over here on the left. Whether you're using a SOAR tool or you're using Sumo Logic's own cloud source solution, you could be sending the insight into those processes and workflows. Maybe emailing it to a person or your team. Reaching out to Slack, we've got some great integrations there as well. One customer, North American Bank Card, has really gone crazy with being able to actually integrate with Slack and actually work out of Slack to see the information I've just shown you here in our UI. So they are actually using, on their phones and devices where they're already living their days in Slack, they actually have brought their SOC and their SOC responses into Slack. So this is just one small example of the power and the flexibility. And these are not pre-populated. This is all customizable for what tools you've already invested in. And you can string this together so that I, as an analyst, can take one-click actions. Or, when ready, just close out the insight. And as I mentioned before, when you close an insight, we're asking you to tell us why you've resolved it. Was it duplicate, false positive, no action was needed, or you did resolve it? Plus the ability to have more granular reasons underneath these these top level reasons. So there's like a parent-child relationship here. You could actually have you've resolved the insight, but you sent it to the remediation team, the response team. You resolved it, but you squashed and rebuilt their machine, or whatever the response actions that you had. Bringing it we're handling it through ServiceNow ticketing system, which you have a bidirectional integration with them as well. And that information, of course, is captured in your environment. So now you know exactly what happened to that insight. But on the back end, we're also able to use that intelligence you just gave us to make sure that the broader security community of our customers with Cloud SIEM can also learn by that and understand through the confidence score. That's a predictive score, so that if they run across the same situation you just ran across, you're actually helping your fellow colleagues in the security community that much better, that much further along. And this process repeats. You just jump right back into the fray for the next insight. I probably spent more time talking about how to use this solution and what the details are than it would actually take a real analyst in just a couple of minutes to go through. Taking what might have taken 4 hours 6 hours, 12 hours. It depends on who we talk to, right? And crushing that down to just seconds or minutes. That's the power. That's through automation, the automatic enrichments, the stream ingest to get the data into the platform and start making sense of the data, the out of the box rules content. All of this stuff is culminating together to get you to move quickly and work. And again, I'm not even talking about our source solution. I'm not even talking about our core platform. I've only focused here on what a SOC analyst would be doing using our Sumo Logic solution. So appreciate your time on that so I could geek out and explain some of this to you. Let me pull back here and also point out that this is a global presence too. So if you've got data residency issues, everything is cloud native platform built natively in AWS with deployments across all these different availability zones, making sure your local data residency and regulatory requirements are met and upheld as well. So at this time, let me check our Q&A panel. I can answer any questions that might have come in. And while I do that, you can snap this QR code here. That'll take you right to our Cloud SIEM webpage. And you can learn more about the solution there as well if you'd like. So we'll take a gander here on the answered ones. And it looks like we might not have any questions here, and that's fine. No problem at all. So I want to thank you for your time today. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing for Security Business Unit here at Sumo Logic. But you can also reach out to our Sumo Logic sales representatives or any of our authorized Sumo Logic resellers. So thank you and have a great day.